Hello, my fellow YouTubers and subscribers, and welcome to my latest ranking video. Sorry for the delay with this one. Life has been crazy busy, and I have to attend to other things before YouTube. YouTube is not my #1 priority, unfortunately. Anyway, a lot of you have been anticipating this one. This is my personal ranking of all 5 Indiana Jones movies. Yes, all 5 Indiana Jones movies, because, unfortunately, they made 2 more than they should have. Anyway, this is just a subjective list, as per usual with all my rankings. It's just my personal opinion. If you disagree with it, that's absolutely fine, but please be civil in the comments below. If I see any hostility or nastiness, it will be deleted. As in, your comment will be deleted. So, don't say you haven't been warned. I'm not saying this is the order that you should rank the movies in, this is just my preference, so yeah, it would be great to see how our lists compare. And if you haven't yet seen The Dial of Destiny, then there may be some spoilers in this video. Not 100% going to guarantee if there are or not, but just to be on the safe side, maybe watch this if you have seen the new movie, or if you don't give a shit about spoilers, then whatever. Okay, so number 5, coming in at the bottom spot, is Indiana and his old bag of bones, otherwise known as Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Oh god, I called this one from the start. I knew that this movie was not going to be good, and I was right. I'm sorry. I'm glad that some people are enjoying it, and that's good for them, but to me, this movie was a car crash waiting to happen, and unfortunately, that's what it feels like to me. It's just Disney trying to recycle the same franchise because it's now theirs, and Harrison Ford, I'm sorry, he's just far too old to be doing this now, and they've compensated with the action sequences by having him drive a car or ride a horse. He barely throws a punch, and it's just so dull. You know, for that reason, the movie is just so tired and so dull. Like, I really couldn't give a shit about this whole story, and the only good part was the opening scene, where they de-aged him. That was actually really fun. I enjoyed that scene. But the rest of it was a boring drag. It was way too long. Way too drawn out. And I just thought the whole third act was ridiculous. You know, time travel? I mean, what the hell? Have we not learnt from the aliens in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull? Clearly not. There seems to be an obsession with science fiction. What the hell? Like, why did they honestly think that this was a good idea? From the certain point of view, I can get, okay, yeah, because Indy can actually see history come to life, but still, the way you go about that is ridiculous. A time-traveling dial? Oh, please. I actually can't believe they did it. I can't believe they had time travel in an Indiana Jones movie. It's just bonkers. Utterly bonkers. And this whole thing about Jürgen Voller, the villain, the Nazi, played by Mads Mikkelsen, how he wants to change the course of history. He wants to go back in time and kill the Fuhrer because he wants to change the war and something. Yeah, it was just bonkers. Like, he's a Nazi. What? Yeah, it makes no sense. And to be perfectly honest, I was so bored watching the whole film. I gave up with it halfway through. And the fact is as well, in the third act, Indy is tied up. He doesn't get to do anything heroic. It's the sidekicks that have to save him, and that's a problem for me. That's a real problem. Like, Phoebe Waller-Bridge as Helena, some people have been shitting on her. They don't like her in this movie or whatever. I think she's fine. You know, I don't have a problem with her. She's okay. Her character's fine. But that Teddy character, I didn't mention him in my review because I totally forgot, but he's basically the short round replacement, and where was he in the marketing? They never marketed him at all, and yeah, another boring character. Antonio Banderas was wasted as well. John Rhys Davies comes back for a cameo, and the only good parts, other than the opening, were probably the fan service, like Marion and Sala coming back, and John Williams' music is good, but this movie, it just didn't need to happen. It really didn't need to be made. Indiana Jones just felt complete as a trilogy. It did not need to be 5 films, and this movie was made far too late in the day for me to care, despite the fact that they wrote out Shia LaBeouf's character, you know, and it gave the movie emotional context. I wasn't really a fan of the whole Indy and Marion being split up. I mean, yeah, they did get back together in the end, but still, I'm very surprised James Mangold was the director for this. You know, I expected much better from him. I really did. It's got some fan-pleasing moments, but honestly, yeah, I would skip this one. If you haven't seen it, I wouldn't recommend it. Just stop at Last Crusade. That's all you need to do. So, number 4 is the fourth movie, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Now, a lot of people would put this as the worst one, and I can understand why, but for me, I take it over Dial of Destiny because it's shorter, it's more fun. Indy actually gets to do a few things in the action scenes. Yes, Harrison is still too old to play Indiana Jones, but here he gets away with it more. He gets away with it more compared to Dial of Destiny. But that being said, the film is still kind of stupid, you know, with the whole aliens thing. Aliens don't really have a place in Indiana Jones, and I don't know why George Lucas thought this was a good idea. And I'm going to blame George for this, because it wasn't Spielberg's fault. Spielberg didn't want to make this movie, and it shows. It's a movie that's so dispassionate, lazy, contrived, forced emotional blackmail with Shia LaBeouf being his son. Yeah, that came out of bloody nowhere. John Hurt is good in the film. It is nice to have Marion back. I'll give the film that. And arguably, this has probably one of the stronger villains of the series in Cate Blanchett. But that being said, none of the villains I feel are particularly impressive. And the film's CGI really affects it. I think you can see that it's quite lazy the way they've composited the shots. The CG just doesn't feel natural to me. Yeah, it's kind of boring as well. It drags on for quite a while. I mean, the action is at least more fun than Dial of Destiny. That's why it's over this, and it's not as long. But again, some nice moments, but it's far from the best entry of the series. It feels old and tired, much like Indiana Jones. It's just one too many. They kind of waited too long to make this movie, and despite some entertaining action set pieces, the movie doesn't have much weight or substance. It's a strange old film, and it really does feel like it was directed by George Lucas. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if George was pulling the strings on set. I admire Harrison's passion for the character. He really is good in the film. He gives a good performance. And I do like Ray Winston as Mac, even though the character's a little confusing with his motivations. But it's a kind of run-of-the-mill, sort of fun, kind of silly, bit strange adventure, really. Doesn't hold a candle to the originals, but it's perfectly harmless. The nuclear fridge scene is not as problematic for me as other scenes are. So, number 3, now we get to the good ones. Number 3 is the Temple of Doom. A lot of people really like this one, but then some people hate it. I think it's the most lukewarm of the series, in that it's got the most mixed reaction. I personally feel like I'm in the middle for this. I like the Temple of Doom, but I don't love it. I feel like it's got some really good action set pieces. The action is incredible, and Harrison is great as Indiana Jones. There's no question about it, and it's a good story. It's a solid adventure. But the tone is very dark, and in some ways that's good, but in other ways it's a little bit too intense, I think, at times, especially when Indy gets possessed by Carly or whatever it is, and, you know, it feels a bit full-on at times. I think Spielberg could have toned down the darkness a bit. Also, the side characters. Willie Scott is just a terrible character. I just don't like Willie Scott. She's just an annoying damsel in distress. Kate Capshaw is a good actress, but the writing for that character is so bad. It's not good, and she doesn't have nearly as much personality as Marion. I'm sorry, I just cannot get into her character. Even in the romantic scenes, you know, I just don't buy their relationship as much. Short Round is the better of the two. He's good. I quite like him. He's quite brave for his age, to be fair. Mola Ram as the villain, though, terrible villain. Just boring villain. Did not care about that character one bit. But like I said, I had great fun, and John Williams' score is awesome. And it's a good time, but it's definitely the least polished of the first 3. But I would still take it over the other 2 that I've just mentioned, just because Indy's younger. And the action feels more brutal. You know, there's a weight to the action, and there's stakes to it. Unlike Kingdom of the Crystal Skull or Dial of Destiny, this one has that weight to it, and you really feel, you know, the tension in those sequences, and it's been more thought out than the other films. Even though the story's thin, this is just a fun, engaging romp. Although the opening is incredibly weird. You know, anything goes. Okay. I mean, for such a dark film, it's a pretty bizarre opening, but they are in a club, so I kind of get it, but at the same time, it's a little weird. But there we are. To each their own. So number 2, for me, would have to be Raiders of the Lost Ark. Now, Raiders would likely be my favourite of the series, had it not been for the ending. I do really like this film, but the climax is a letdown for me. I really feel like India Marion could have done something in this climax. They're just tied up and they have to close their eyes and not see what is inside the Ark when the villains open it. But that's literally the only kind of major flaw I have with this film. The rest of this film is fantastic. The action is incredible. The sequences are so well thought out. So much energy. The truck chase is just amazing. It's one of the best action scenes ever put to film, and it's one of my favourite action scenes in the series. It's that good. Harrison gives it everything. Marion is fantastic. Karen Allen is amazing. It's her best performance of the series by far. And they have a good chemistry. I like their romantic relationship, and the story's fun. It's a fun, engaging film, and John Williams does a great job with the music, and it moves at a great pace. And I was never bored once. The villain is a slight letdown. Belloc, or Bellend as I call him. He's okay. I mean, he doesn't have a huge amount of personality, but he's a serviceable antagonist for what this film is. But I would have quite liked to have seen him developed a bit more, but then you could say that about all the Indiana Jones villains. The opening scene is really cool when they introduce Harrison coming out of the darkness, and then when he escapes the temple. I really love that moment. That's a classic opening in film. I mean, it's just great. It's fantastic, and Alfred Molina's small part in the film is worthy to mention as well. And yeah, it's a fantastic film that really changed the way action movies were made and brought back sort of the adventure in films, and it's the perfect definition of a summer blockbuster, and you just want to have a good time, and it does what it set out to do, and it does it really, really well. But of course, my favourite movie of the series is The Last Crusade. Yeah, you knew this was going to be number one. I mean, I absolutely love this film, I really do. I don't rate it quite as highly just because I feel like Donovan is a slightly wasted villain. I do feel like he could have had a bit more to do. Certainly could have used more development as the story goes on, or have Elsa be the villain. Just have Elsa be the main antagonist, because given that she betrays Indy, the impact on that would have been greater. If Indy had fallen in love with Elsa, then she betrayed him. I feel that there's more emotional stakes. But that being said, there are emotional stakes to this film, of course, because Indy's dad is in the film. Sean Connery as Professor Jones is fantastic. I mean, it's such a departure from James Bond, and it's great. You really don't, in a way, don't recognize Sean Connery that much in this movie. But, not as James Bond. You don't see James Bond. You see Sean Connery, and that's fantastic. And his chemistry with Harrison Ford is brilliant. This film is funny, delightful. The adventure is just amazing. Going after the Holy Grail. It's a brilliant film. The action is just so good. For me, this has some of the best action of the series. Like that tank scene. Wow, it's so good, and probably my favourite score from John Williams, actually, and I'm glad they reused a couple of themes from here in Dial of Destiny. But all the sequences are really well thought out. The finale is emotional and engaging, and when Indy has to go inside and pass the tests in the sort of the tomb, that's all really, really well and good, and it ends the series on quite an emotional high, I think. When Indy, his dad, Sala, and Brody, they ride off into the sunset. That's a good ending, I think. And it's a shame they had to go and ruin that and make 2 more films, but there we are. The Last Crusade also features Alison Doody as Elsa, and I think she is fantastic as well. She's a really good addition to the cast, and she's kind of as far as I know, the first femme fatale of the series, and I think she's a really strong character, and she's a good villain. She probably is the best villain of the series, although she's more of a side villain, I guess you could say. But she gets quite a bit to do, and I think she pulls it off quite well. So that's my ranking of the 5 Indiana Jones movies. Just to recap, number 5 was Dial of Destiny, number 4 was Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, number 3 was Temple of Doom, number 2 was Raiders of the Lost Ark, and number 1 was The Last Crusade. So, what's your list? Please leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Please hit the like and subscribe button for more content to come in the future. And until next time, I'm Pajak's Perspective. See you soon. Bye for now.